Hi, I'm Mitch, and welcome to the Restoration Road, where my guest today is my good friend, pastor of Pathway Community Church, Ron Williams. You know, I think one of the most difficult things for us to navigate is the valley of the shadow of death. David wrote in Psalm 23 that even though I walk through the darkest valley, the valley of the shadow of death, you are with me. We read those words and we hope for them when we're not in that valley. But when we're in the valley, we live them. And Ron Williams today transparently shares his walk with the God of the universe through that darkest valley. Ron, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, you bet, Mitch. Yeah.
How in the world did you ever know you wanted to be a pastor?
Wow. My dad said, "You're going to be a pastor." Actually, that's not the way it went at all. Man, I came out of high school and thought maybe ministry was going to be the case, and went a semester to college and had a professor there say, if you can think of anything else to do, don't do this. You know, if you're thinking about, if you don't feel called, don't do it. And I sat in that class, I thought, I don't think I'm called. And so came home and spent about 4 years just kind of trying to find myself and all that went with it, and found some things I shouldn't have found. And God got a hold of my life. And just through a series of events, came a point of just really growing up. I mean, that's really what it was for me. Just a point where I just realized it's time to grow up. It's time to make good choices and good decisions. And so I did just that. Had a little moment beside my bed one night, and the next day thought I'd get serious about this. And so I had an older man that was investing in my life, and he knew that had been going through some really difficult season in my life, and had told me periodically, "I'm praying for you."
Wow.
And so I had a moment of just letting him know, hey, this is where I'm at with God now. And so he invited me to his church, and went to his church, and there was a couple pastors that were there that put their arms around me and just began to see something in me that
Wow.
I hadn't seen, and had me teach a group of fifth grade kids. Why don't you teach this class? We need somebody to teach the class.
That's challenging.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Out of that just became opportunities for developing. I found a passion for the word, and there was something exciting about teaching it. And if I could keep fifth graders' attention for that length of time, maybe there's something about it. And and as a result of that, just through the encouragement of a lot of key men in my life, we just said, there just seems to be a calling on your life that you ought to really consider. And so from that was the beginning of the journey towards ministry. So. And
you went to Fort Wayne Bible College?
Yeah, I went there.
And did you meet a girl there?
I did, yeah.
And you asked her out?
I did.
And what happened?
We went out. And we dated for 3 months. And then I dumped her.
Would she say that's the way it happened?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I was a horrible dater, and I think I was a horrible dater for I'm still a horrible dater, I think, but I was a horrible dater through that period. And ended the relationship just kind of a very quick whim on my part.
So that's Laura.
That's Laura.
And when do you connect again?
We connected again, graduated in 1987, reconnected again in 1990.
Wow.
So I went to Detroit for a few years, came back to Fort Wayne, took a job at Fellowship Missionary here in Fort Wayne. And the first Sunday I'm there, I'm being introduced, and I walk out into this very narrow hallway in the back, and lo and behold, here comes Laura walking beside me with another guy.
Did you stick your chest out?
No, it was a moment, certainly a moment. And we both had significant changes in our life at that point and grown up a lot. And 10 years later, 10 years after we started dating, we got married. So there was a 10-year gap.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I should have moved a lot earlier. Is what was going on, but I didn't.
Yeah. Fellowship grows and grows as tremendous success. And there's going to be a new movement of God in Northwest Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
A lot of growth.
Yeah.
How was your transition in that?
I was speaking at camp down in Atlanta, and Laura was with me. And we got to that camp, and we were there. One of the couples that we were staying with gave us a book to read. Periodically, Laura would go, "This is an awesome book. You've got to read it when I'm done." I don't have time for that. So we ended our time at the camp, I think a couple days early. So I had a couple days still hanging out there. So I said, "Why don't you give me that book?" So she gave me the book, and it was a book written by Robert Lewis, and which was Fellowship Church out of Little Rock, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about their church planning strategy and how they were birthing ministries in their city. Really remarkable book. So I'm reading it and get done. We're leaving. I kid you not. We're heading out this house that we're staying in. This couple that were hosting us said, "Hey, that book you were reading." And I said, "Yeah." They said, "Well, that church, we're part of a planning group that's planting a church out of that church in Tennessee." And so this is August.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "So since January, we've been praying about you guys, and we're wondering if you would consider allowing us to give your name as part of the planting team for this church."
Oh my goodness.
And I just looked at him, I said, "My wife is not going to move to Tennessee."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "But that book has been challenging my thinking on some things, because there's something happening in Fort Wayne that I think I need to reconsider."
Wow.
So we got on the plane, we're flying out of Atlanta, heading back to Fort Wayne, and I remember sitting there, I said, "So what do you think we're going to do? What do you think we're going to do? What's next?" And really, we were at a season of life that we were great with fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
We had a great ministry. We were with a great team. There was, outside of the fact that there just was this nudge inside of it, you've experienced it, where the Spirit of God is saying, "There's something next, there's something next."
Yes.
And I said, "What do you think's next?" And she said, "We're going to plant that church Northwest Fort Wayne, and you have just not stopped long enough to listen."
She said that.
But that's what we're going to do. Yeah.
Wow.
And so within a matter of a few weeks, we had met with the small group that was meeting together and had made the decision that we felt a real kindred spirit with them. And this is where the Lord was leading. So kind of the rest was history.
Yeah. And now Pathway has thousands of people who call it home. It's an amazing place.
Yeah, it's a great place.
A lot of transformation has happened there.
Yeah.
You and Laura have a beautiful family. Can you describe each child?
They're all so unique.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Dawson's 19. He's a student in tech. Lydia's my redhead. You know, she's 17. Lydia got my creative side, and she got her mom's extroverted side. And then I've got Sophia, who's my brunette, and she's 15, has got my introverted side, but Laura's methodical side of things. And then there's Bella, who's 10, and we adopted Bella when she was 10 months old from China. And she doesn't have any of our DNA, so she's a great athlete. She just
awesome.
loves doing what she's doing. She's very smart and very bright, and just a fun group of kids. Is what they are, a real gift.
Can you talk about the adoption process?
Yeah.
With Laura?
You know, we had these 3 kids, and then through a conversation one evening that we'd had with her dad about adoption, that night I got online and did a little search on adoption, and the next weekend they were scheduling that organization called American World, which Stephen Kruse Chapman had utilized them. They were doing a seminar in Fort Wayne. We went to it and went to this 3-hour seminar, and we got up and walked out and said, "Let's do it." You know, there wasn't,
tremendous.
Hate to say that we didn't pray about it.
You just knew.
We just did it.
Yeah.
And later we began to pray about a lot of things, you know, as related to that. But it was really, I'll tell you, Mitch, that was an incredible journey for us. It took what we thought would be an 8-month journey, took over 3 years. And it seemed as if what God did with that for me, and for her too, is there were certain growth points that we all had to work through. For me, it was finances. And time again, I would say, we can't do this. We can't afford to do this. And, and God would just demonstrate his place in this journey with us by somebody doing something absolutely out of the ordinary financially for us to say, no, we believe in what you're doing without anybody asking anything, and the timing issue. I think for Laura, it was an issue of patience, of, waiting, thought it was going to be 8 months, then it turned into 3 years. And yet looking back at it, God's timing was perfect in everything and in every way.
Well, in that process, I think Laura mentions a biopsy.
Yeah.
That came out of a routine exam.
One of those odd things, I didn't know really anything was going on. I knew she'd gone in for a, routine mammogram, but didn't have any idea that anything had been found or noticed. And so we're leaving for vacation that following Monday. And so this would have been on a Friday. And she said, hey, I need you to go with me to an appointment. I'm going to have a biopsy done. I said, on what? So she explained what was going on. And so we went. And so we're heading down to Florida on that following Monday or Tuesday, I guess it was, and got the news on the road down there that it had come back as being breast cancer. And so that began the journey of trying to figure out exactly to what extent it was and what we're going to do about it. So
you downloaded a book, The Breast Cancer Husband?
Yeah. Well, yeah, so we're on our way to Florida.
Yeah.
We decided to stop, regroup, end up in Lexington, Kentucky at a hotel, and camped out there. And I downloaded a book that night. We notified a couple friends of ours in the community, in the medical community. Okay, here's what we're dealing with. Help us to know
next?
What could be next steps for us. Just beginning to kind of put a framework together. And then I came across a book on Amazon called Breast Cancer Husband, downloaded that, and just kind of consumed that for that next couple days, and which really was very helpful for me in really beginning to map out a plan for myself, but also for us as a family too.
So you start meeting with physicians and go to IU Med Center, and you learned that the cancer had moved to her lymph nodes?
And the doctor that we ended up with down there was able to do some initial testing, some more testing, and found out that the cancer had already spread into the lymph nodes at that point. So
what kind of treatment does she have?
We went through chemotherapy first. She went through that, and then from the chemotherapy, then she went on back to IU Med for her surgery, and then after that, then there was radiation that followed that.
She lost her hair?
Oh yeah.
And I think you said she got 3 wigs. You had a blonde, brunette, and red.
She had 2 wigs. So she loses her hair. I mean, part of the journey, and this is how we embraced it, is the seriousness of it was evident, and was very true that we knew we were dealing with something that wasn't just going to simply be a quick removal, done, we're on with the rest of our lives, but realizing, okay, this is going to create a change and challenge for us. But we really tried to address things from bringing in a sense of humor too. I mean, you've got to address it that way too. And humor just changes everything, for you. Gives you a completely different perspective on things. And so she lost her hair. We did the wig. She went got the wig. She was a brunette, so she went and got a brunette wig. And then one day I came home and I walk in the kitchen and there's a blonde in my kitchen. And so I don't know what I'm getting. Am I getting the blonde? Am I getting the brunette? Am I getting who am I getting here at this point? But even without hair, she was beautiful even without hair. So I mean, that was just remarkable.
So you include your kids in on the journey, and you kind of meet them where they are on the information of that you share with them. But one night, Sophia asks, "Is Mom going to die?"
Yeah.
What was the answer?
I figured the question would come somewhere from someone. And so we were at the table one night, and she asked then, she said, "Dad, is Mom going to die from this?" And I sat there and I just told her, I said, honey, I said, we're all going to die. We're all going to die from something. And the truth is that mom is not going to die today, not going to die tomorrow, and probably not going to die for a long time. And I said, and the doctor's not told us that mom's going to die. I said, but I'll make a deal with you. If and when they tell us that mom is going to die, I'll tell you. And the same thing would be true for me. If something were to happen to me and they were to say that I'm going to die, we'll tell you. I said, but right now, that's not where we're at. So,
So what transpires? Does Laura actually experience remission for a while?
Yeah, she does. When the surgery's done, there was still, we knew that there was still some evidence that we're going to have to keep watching this thing. So she had gone into remission, and then she came out of remission. And from that began just the continued treatment that went on with how they were fighting the cancer. And so we'd watch that. We'd have some months of some good wins, and it seemed to be going pretty well. And then eventually things kind of went its own way.
So when it comes out of remission, you experience an intense time period there. Laura, was part of BSF.
Yeah.
And she actually was huge in the life of my wife, Susan. And they connected there. And Laura's incredible human being, just incredible. But now this woman you love, she's going through this intense time. How do you navigate through those stages?
Yeah. With intentionality. And I think that's the thing that I'm finding more and more now in this stage of where my life is at now, is that I get the opportunity to spend time with folks that are battling their own reality, their own mortality, battling their cancer. I've got a couple friends right now that are battling that in their own life. A couple men that I know, walking with others that are there, that are walking through that, get that diagnosis. And I think for us both, it was an issue of just intentionality. How is this now going to continue to change us? I don't think, Mitch, there was ever a time when I found myself angry at God, through that. And I know that sounds, at that time. There have been times after that when God and I have had some really long, hard conversations, very one-sided, but he's got big shoulders, and he can take it, and he invites us to bring it his way. I think that's why when you read the Psalms and all the lamenting that goes on, and God, why have you forsaken me, and why have you abandoned me, and where are you at on this? I mean, those are big questions that God has the capacity to handle and to deal with. And so we dealt with it honestly. We dealt with it with a sense of intentionality. I think then walking with our kids through it, and doing the things you needed to do as things progressed for Laura, I think for her particularly, to leave well,
I think it was December 2015, she hurt herself walking the dog.
Yeah, she was out on a walk and she had cracked her pelvis, is what had happened. So found ourselves in the hospital that day.
And what transpires in the hospital?
We end up getting some scans. At that point, we knew then that when the news came back, she was fairly well riddled at that point with the cancer within her bones, and then that became the second part of the decision for us. What do we do now? In light of this.
And what did you do?
We continued the course of treatment that was prescribed. And then Laura also wanted to just seek some additional treatments. And so, we jumped through that as well. And we ended up actually heading out west for a while. And that's a whole different conversation. But we really, really wanted to follow. We trusted our doctors. And so we really followed their counsel. And then we also ended up out west, which was really a great thing for us. We ended up out in the Phoenix area for a few months, and which brought our family with us, and Laura's brother and his wife, who they've got a bundle full of kids. They came out as well. John was able to run his business anywhere he needs to run it from, and so they came out, stayed a few miles from where we were staying, and we just did what we felt was the right thing to do to continue to fight the prognosis and the cancer.
She made a profound statement to your children about, we've taught you how to live.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to teach you how to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you mind talking about how that last day went?
We spent that time out west, came home, and when we got back home, we knew that the timetable was getting relatively short. She was doing her best to continue to fight it. There came a moment where she decided, I've done my all I can do, and so we then went into hospice at that point, and that was on a Monday, and we did that, and so went to hospice, and so it's probably been that Monday evening or that Tuesday, can't remember when it was, but we got all the kids in the hospital room with us, and that's when she kind of sat them down and did as she would do so well, and let them know, hey, here's what the deal is. And we made it very clear to them that this was the last part of the journey for Mom. And so with all of them sitting there, she said, your dad and I have done our best to teach you how to live, and I'm going to do my best to teach you how to die. So we, and I think that for her, the teaching had been going on for a long time, how to die well. And that is, again, with intention, with just, for her, there was a moment where I had come into the bedroom, and she was in the bedroom, and she'd always have her Bible out, and walked in, and she said, I found my new best friend. And I kind of stopped for a minute. I said, well, who's that? She said, God. And she said, I think this is how it's supposed to be, Rod. That as we get to the end of our journey, that our relationships here on earth change. And she said, that's someone to be spending eternity with. And
wow.
So, to be honest with you, there was a moment where I had a little jealousy towards, come on, what are you doing here? But it was true. And I think that was the thing on dying well, was where's your focus going to be? Where are your priorities going to be? And for her, it was the priority of family around, and finishing well with confidence and boldness and conviction. So.
And she wrote 2 letters to each of your children and filmed a video?
Yeah, we did a video in Phoenix for each of the kids, for all of us. She did a video for each one of them. And then she wrote, that's intentionality, she wrote 2 letters. She wrote a letter for all of us, each one of us, that we could open up after she passed on. And then there was another letter she wrote to each of the kids after they turned 18. So that's all in their hands, for them to read and work through.
Ron, I know you're thankful for how the Pathway Church community and the broader Christian community have come alongside you through all of that. And I imagine you minister to people, as you mentioned, going through a loss or cancer in a lot different way with the way that you've lived through it. But I wonder if somebody's watching today and they're in the thick of it right now.
Yeah.
Could you talk to them about what you've learned?
I had an email last week from a friend who just received a diagnosis of terminal cancer. And his question to me was, how do I walk through this? How do I help walk my wife through this as well? And as I thought about that, I thought, really, one is allow others to love you and connect with others who long to walk with you through that. To walk through it with a sense of intentionality of just letting God show you all the ways in which He's going to demonstrate His presence to you in this season of whatever it is you're going through. Maybe you're not looking at a loss of your life, but maybe it's a loss out of a relationship, out of a marriage, out of a job. I don't whatever it might be, and you're wondering how you're going to get through this. Well, the truth is you don't have to get through this alone. And as James tells us, that God says we'll draw near to Him, He'll draw near to us. And He does exactly that. He'll draw near to you through the people He brings around you. He'll draw near to you through the conversations you're going to end up having. He's going to draw near to you just at times through an unusual sense of His presence. And I would hope that you would be able to be quiet at times to just sense that as well. And just walk through this season with that sense of intentionality. Of just seeing God in the midst of whatever it is you're walking through and you're going through, and let others come around you, as I said, let others love you, and allow this to be a time when your faith gets strengthened and not when it gets weakened. Mm-hmm. And that is even when you've got hard questions for God, feel free to ask those questions. And other times, just look for the tangible expressions of His love around you as well. So that's what I'd say.
Amen. Ron, thank you so much for your vulnerability, your transparency. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Mitch.